Okay, let's get back to some expert analysis on the looming budget. I want to cross to Pradeep Phillip, who's the lead partner at Deloitte Access Economics. Good to speak to you, Pradeep. I want to get your thoughts firstly on the bottom line of the budget. We're told there's going to be a $9 billion surplus. That's good news. And there's good fortune involved in that. It's essentially additional tax receipts rather than the government getting spending under control. But what I'm worried about is the deficits we're going to see in future years. Can you give us any sense of how deep you think the deficits might go and for how long?
Look, Chris, it's very clear the government's going to announce a second surplus on the trot, and it's coming about because the rest of the world is giving Australia a bit of a paycheck, and they're banking that paycheck, which is why we're going to get a surplus for a second year running. But what the two surpluses have done has masked an underlying problem, which is we are spending more than we are raising in terms of revenue. We've got to get a bit of fiscal discipline back into the budget, because what you see is after these two surpluses, there are deficits as far as the eye can see. And so what we need to do is start to see a structural shift in the budget, get some reform both on spending and on tax, so that we can get the budget into a better footing to deal with the really important challenges that we already face, as you know, around security, around some good social services. There are some important things that need government spending, but you can only afford them if you get the budget right.
Well, this is the worry, isn't it? The NDIS spending is out of control. There'll be some effort in the budget, you would think, to try and suggest they're going to get that under control. But we need to spend more on defence, and they won't be doing that in a hurry. Most of the increased defence spending is some time off. So where are the big opportunities to try and curtail spending? Or is it just a matter of really stopping the increasing, trying to keep it at the existing levels?
You know, Chris, there used to be some really simple rules sitting around the cabinet table around budget. If you're a spending minister and you want to spend $1 here, you had to come to the table having found $1 of savings somewhere else. Now, where can you look for this? Well, if you look at the Auditor General, report after report talks about wasteful spending, programs that are ineffective. Now, the government's created an Evaluator General sitting in Treasury. Well, we've got to embed that into everything that the government does around budget to look at where programs are ineffective or wasteful and get rid of that, because that creates room to spend on really important things. Like you said, our security requirements are actually quite large, and we can't kind of delay the spending on that. We've got to do them now, otherwise we actually won't secure our nation for the future.
Look, the waste in government, the waste in the bureaucracy, it's just endless. And if you just got some efficiencies there, it's amazing how much you would be able to save. There's no doubt about that. So I want to ask you about this big boondoggle. I'm certain there'll be a lot more on this in the budget, although there's been a lot of announcements in the lead up. And this is this Future Made in Australia program. And this is all about picking winners and picking the best projects and things that governments want to subsidise. Now, if this is productive infrastructure, then that can be useful. But if it's not, A, are we going to waste a lot of money? And B, is it going to fuel inflation?
Chris, you know, the idea behind Future Made in Australia is important. Strategic industry policy, which is about securing Australia's supply chains in a world that's changing rapidly. And we see that on the security front. It's actually also true on the economic front. But the reality is we've got to make sure governments think about the design and implementation of this policy well. Otherwise, it is just going to be a waste of money. You know, should we be thinking about the future of Australia's exports in terms of energy? Absolutely. Should we be thinking about the adoption of AI and quantum computing into Australia? Absolutely. But is government best placed to pick winners? No, they're not. So they've got to think really carefully about the design of this to make sure actually what we're doing is unleashing private sector entrepreneurialism.
Exactly.
To get some dynamism back in the economy.
Yeah,
that would be a good Future Made in Australia policy.
Exactly. Don't pick winners, just get government out of the way. It's a better way to go about it. Thanks for joining us, Pradeep. Happy hunting through the budget papers this evening. That's Pradeep Phillip there, who's the lead partner with Deloitte Access Economics.